All right, the first thing we're going to look at is 2x2. All right, taking a look at our Veer to the right with a key screen to our number 2 receiver. Okay, one of the things I just want to clear up a little bit here. I'm going to try and draw. The PowerPoint drawing tools are not the greatest in the world dealing with a mouse. I'm going to do the best I can here. One of the things I want to look at right away is I'd like to take a look at, we've tightened the path of the back down to where he's really front side leg of the center in that front side A gap right there. He's not inside leg of the guard. He's actually front side leg of the center. So we've made it actually further for the 5 technique to actually get to the quarterback. So, by putting it on the front side leg of the center, we feel like the 5 technique has a longer run, and we feel like our tailbacks get a little bit better downhill mentality. When we got out here to the inside leg of the guard, some of our tailbacks started crossing over and getting their shoulders turned a little bit. So I wanted it to be more downhill. I wanted it to be more square to the line of scrimmage. So we've actually taken it with a short position zone step, and we put it right on that front side leg of the center right there. Okay, hopefully you can see where I've got that red line drawn up there. And what we've done is we've made it longer for the 5 technique to get to the read, which we think effectively makes it easier for the quarterback to determine whether or not that 5 technique has his shoulders turned to really squeeze and bend off that down block, or if he is in a position with his shoulders up the field a little bit where we feel like we can give to the tailback and not have the 5 technique or the front side C gap player make that play. There's 2 different theories in teaching the quarterback this play. If you got a quarterback that's your guy and he's the one you want with the football, then what you teach him is when he's reading that front side C gap defender, you teach him, can that defender tackle you, yes or no? And at any time the quarterback feels like that defender can't tackle him, let him pull the ball. Okay? If your tailbacks are the guys, and if your tailbacks are your better players and you want the tailbacks with the football in their hand, then you teach the quarterback, can the 5 technique or C gap player, can he tackle the tailback? Okay? So you've got 2 different teaching mentalities based on who you think your go-to players are. So, if I want my tailback to have the ball, I'm going to let my quarterback know that we're going to give, as long as we don't feel like the C-gap player, all right, can tackle the back, we're going to give the football. And again, for us, when we run the front side Veer play, it's a front side C-gap read. So regardless of whether you get a 3-4 defense, if you get a 3-3 stack, a lot of times I'll have guys ask me questions about a 4-eye. I would block a 4-eye down personally. Somebody in the defense is going to become the C-gap player, and that's who we're going to read. All right, I'm not a big fan. The Veer for us is about 25 to 30% of our run game. So, it's not bread and butter for us. It's not 60 to 70% of our run game. So I don't have 9 different ways to block the Veer. I'm an up-tempo, no-huddle team, and I'm a big believer and a firm believer in the fact that your kids will play faster if they have set rules. So we're going to block the Veer play the same way every time, regardless of what the front is. So, my play side tackle here is going to be a down gap player in that D gap right inside, okay? My play side guard is going to be responsible for the front side A gap. So on the diagram right here, I have drawn up a 3 technique, and we would like to double a 3 technique to a stacked mic or possibly, to a backside inside, if it's a 3-3 stack, center will take care of the stack. The front side guys really only have to worry about it when it's the inside track of a 5-man box, okay? And what their rule is they have, the strong tackle has B gap to play side inside linebacker. We're always going to double a 3 technique, okay? The strong guard on that side, he has uncovered A gap to backside inside linebacker. If he is covered, he will double to the play side inside linebacker, okay? So if the front side guard has a 3 technique, we're going to double the 3 right here, and we're going to double it up to the play side inside backer. Right now, I've got a 5-man box drawn up, so we're going to double it back to that inside stack linebacker, okay? What the center is going to do is he's going to work the most dangerous A-gap player to the backside inside linebacker. All right, he makes an H, Rex, or Leo call telling the guard which side he wants to work. So right now, I've got the center working with the 1 technique to the left. All right, so this would be the center and the one technique working this. All right, I'm sorry, the center and my guard working this one technique here and pushing it all the way back to that will linebacker. Okay, now again, the two things that you got to be cognizant of. Your front side guard is an A-gap player first. He's got to take care of A-gap blitzes. He's got to take care of A-gap run-through. If there is a three technique, okay, we really don't want the guard stepping out to the three technique and leaving his shoulders turned for run-through in the A-gap. What we'd like to get is a short position step inside to the A-gap, and then we'd like him to take his next step straight through the crotch of the three technique, all right, getting movement, all right, and help from the strong tackle so that we can hopefully try and move this three lateral on the double team. Okay, I'm sorry, vertical on a double team, not lateral. All right, I apologize. I'd like to move it vertical, not lateral. Okay, so I'd like to get vertical movement. On the backside, the guard is responsible for the backside B gap. So even though he's got the one technique inside and his center has made an ace Leo call, okay, he still has to make sure he checks his B gap for run through first. So he's going to take a short position step to the B gap. Then he's going to take his next step straight through the crotch of the one technique, and they will work that double team back to that will linebacker. Okay? Your backside tackle is very important. He's got an on-out block. Okay? The number one thing your backside tackle must understand is we don't need a ton of movement, okay, on the on-out block on the backside. The one thing we must make sure is that we do not get beat across our face in the B gap, okay, because my quarterback will actually be turning his back to the backside so that he can get his hips and shoulders square to, right now, this is our, all right, initial, all right, this is our give-pull key, okay, initially. So in order for us to get our hips and shoulders square to our initial give or pull key here, all right, the quarterback physically has to turn his back on the backside to get his hips and shoulders square. And if you can imagine, it's tough when you don't have, film to show the actual footwork, but if you can imagine right now, my quarterback taking his left foot and stepping to 11 o'clock on a clock, okay, and then taking his right foot and stepping to 9 o'clock on a clock, okay, those two red lines right there would be equivalent. This would be his left foot here. This would be his right foot here, and his hips and shoulders would be square to the five technique, all right? So that now not only does he have a chance to see and read the five technique, but his shoulders are wide open to the path of the tailback coming down, right down front side A-gap right there, okay? So if the quarterback has his hips or shoulders turned to the five technique at all, what ends up happening, because the tailback is coming straight downhill, all right, square to the line of scrimmage, you're going to have your quarterback and your tailback bump into each other on the mesh. So your quarterback actually has to be, okay, he's physically going to take his rear end, and his rear end is going to be facing, if you can imagine that on this PowerPoint, if this outside portion of the PowerPoint out here is the sideline, the quarterback is actually going to have his rear end facing the opposite sideline. So if I'm running Veer right, my quarterback's rear end and his back is going to be directly to the left sideline. Okay, so again, on the clock, he would take his left foot, all right, and he would place it at about 11 o'clock up here. And then he would take his right foot and he would step it back to 9 o'clock. All right, and if you can envision that in your head, what's going to happen when he does that, it's by stepping up to 11 o'clock, he's going to put his left foot in position. He's also going to bring himself closer to the line of scrimmage. All right, so if you're teaching him as if he's in the middle of the clock, which is good old-fashioned under-center footwork for a quarterback, if he's in the middle of the clock, all right, and then his feet are going to become the arms on the clock, when he takes that left foot and he steps it to 11 o'clock, he's going to get closer to the line of scrimmage. When he takes that right foot and he steps it back to 9 o'clock, what he's going to do is he's going to open his hips and shoulders, okay, and then he's going to have himself with his rear end to the left sideline so that he is absolutely dead square to the front side C-gap read key right here, all right? And then also, all right, what's going to happen is now he's going to have a clear path for the tailback to be front side A-gap on the Veer right now, okay? All right, so right now we've got it drawn up with key 2, and all key 2 means is it tells the front side number 2 receiver to run bubble screen, okay? if I were to say key 1, then the number 1 receiver from outside in, we label these from outside in, so he'd be 1, all right, he'd be 2. All right, so right now key 2 talks to the slot receiver. Key 1 would talk to the outside receiver, okay? Whichever receiver we tell to run the key screen, okay, if it's an inside slot receiver, we run bubble. If it's an outside X or Z receiver, we run stand-up screen. So he doesn't have to do anything different. He doesn't run bubble. He just goes fast hands and feet and just presents himself right back in that position right there to accept the screen, okay? All right, so if it's an outside receiver, all right, it is fast hands, fast feet, stand-up screen. If it's an inside receiver, it's bubble. Now, whichever of the 2 receivers do not get the screen, all right, the other one is responsible for stalking the corner. You can see right here, all right, the way I have it drawn up, that receiver is responsible for stalking the corner. So if I had key 2 drawn up, okay, the outside receiver would stalk the corner. The inside 2 receiver would run the bubble, okay? Your quarterback is going to run, all right, your veer to the right side here. He's going to get his initial give or pull, all right, off of this front side C-gap defender, okay? If he is to pull this and follow the dotted line out here, he wants to attack the outside linebacker, force player, okay, who is now going to be the pitch key, the old-fashioned pitch key, all right? If that player plays the quarterback, he is going to throw the bubble screen. If that player widens with the bubble screen, then that is going to create natural space and running room for the quarterback to keep. So once you get to the next phase of the triple option theory, we are working the same pitch key that you've always worked in option relationship. Instead of having a pitch player, now you have a screen player. Now, let me tell you why I think this is not only a little bit better way to do this, okay, all right, but, you know, to me, why I really like it is by running screens with the receivers, you are getting more width and putting more pressure on, all right, that particular read key, okay? You're putting more pressure on that particular read key. So right now, all right, he has to choose. There's no way for him to slow play the quarterback, all right? Now, in the diagram I have drawn up, obviously, if it's a 2-high structure and a team that's playing robber or quarters concepts or 2 read, you're going to say, well, coach, the corner's going to come up to play the bubble. The safety's going to get over the top of 1. That pitch player that you're working on, really there's no pressure on him to widen out on the bubble screen. Now, against that look, you are technically correct. But just understand how much pressure you're putting on their secondary players, okay, to get up and actually force this bubble screen. If your perimeter player or your outside backer nickel player here, if he doesn't have to worry about 2 to the flat and he stays tight on the quarterback, when we get that ball out in space to the receiver, there's a ton of pressure on these 2 players out here to get this handled. We've got a helmet for a helmet on the corner. So even if the corner is the bubble player, we technically have a helmet on a helmet for him. So if we can just get our helmet on that corner, now this safety has a long run and this backer has a long run, all right, to get out to the bubble, and we've got the ball to one of our better players in space. Okay? So yes, if it's a 2-high structure, you're going to have guys say, well, coach, that outside nickel player is not going to widen because he's not responsible for 2 to the flat. Yes, you are correct, 100%. Okay? But if he stays tight to the quarterback and the quarterback throws the bubble, all right, now you've got one of your best players in space with a chance to make some people miss. Okay? All right, now, if